Serving since 1993, this representative is local to many of us, coming from Fullerton, California. He is currently in his 10th term in Congress, and he is in the Committee of Foreign Affairs. This representative considers fighting crime and helping victims of crime as one of his main priorities, as he was the sponsor of the vital North Korean Adoption Act. His passion for justice is clear, as we have seen through his sponsoring of HR Resolution 109 and HR 1464. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Representative Ed Royce of the 40th Congressional District.
Ladies and gentlemen, first, I want to thank all of you for being here today, and the reason I want to express that appreciation is because I believe it's indifference to this problem that's helped it continue for so many years. For 50 years, you've got one nation on this planet that has held over 250,000 people in concentration camps. And I don't say that lightly. I've talked to Mr. Shin. I've made frequent trips to the Korean Peninsula, where I've been able to talk to defectors about the types of treatment that they received in those camps, the type of torture. I talked to a young girl whose brother was killed when he was trying to escape over the border into China. She made the escape, but Mr. Shin could show you the scars on his body in terms of what happened to him. And what troubles me most about this is the lack of international attention on the problem. My father had his brother's camera with him during the war when, after Dachau was liberated. And he went in there into that concentration camp, and his photographs record what he saw at the time. The emaciated bodies, sometimes stacked up like cordwood in the ovens. The starvation, the death. And that is what is going on and continues to go on in these camps, like Camp 14. And to me, and I belong to I'm the co-chairman of the International Parliamentarians Coalition for Human Rights in North Korea. For me, it seems as though if we could create a greater level of awareness and pressure on China, as was done recently when they decided not to return a certain number of defectors from North Korea. Had they been returned, we know what their fate would have been. But because of pressure, because of people like Sam Kim, because of you, because of people speaking out, you had second thoughts on the part of the Chinese government over whether or not they were going to cooperate with the North Korean regime. Usually they do. I want to encourage you to do everything you possibly can to call attention to the human rights abuses, the travesty that is going on in North Korea. And I want you to understand that there's hope for the future. Because as I talk to these defectors, it is very clear that DVDs and radios are making their way across North Korea. And for the first time, over 40% of the people who are defecting say that they are listening to those radio broadcasts, or that people in their villages are watching these DVDs. They're watching South Korea dramas, and they're finding out what life is really like in South Korea. Or they're finding out news. I had a bill which extended broadcasting into North Korea. I am told and the statistics bear this out, that not just people in the countryside are listening to these now, but people in the civilian government, even some of the military defectors I've talked to, say that they're listening to these radio broadcasts about what is really going on in South Korea and what is really going on in the rest of the world in terms of protests about the situation in North Korea. So as this learning process goes on, believe me, now is the time for you to stand with brave people like Mr. Shin. Now is the time to share his story and the story of others and what they've suffered through, in the hopes that the next generation of young North Koreans have some hope for the future. I've been in North Korea and seen these children stunted, malnutrition, because they have not been fed. And that is governmental policy in the no-go areas, is to withhold resources in those areas. I must tell you, your work here today is very, very important. I applaud you for it. I urge you to redouble your efforts. And hopefully, just as we saw in Eastern Europe, once information began to get in, and once the NGO groups began to really speak out, the world began to change. Appeal to your friends to join you. Thank you so much for what you do.
Congressman Royce, one way. Yeah, the Korean Church Coalition would like to thank you for your support and help.
Thank you, Jenna.
Come right over here. And Congressman, we'd like to present you with a book from Shindong Hub of the Escape from 14. Thank you for all your support.